Hey everybody, Dr. David Evans here. I'm so happy today for all of you tuning in to our Pick TV network, our news channel. Our Pick TV network news channel is literally on all over the world. So we want to say hello to everybody who's in Brazil, France, Argentina, Nicaragua, United States, United Kingdom, Colombia, Mexico, Guatemala, everywhere, Germany, Panama, who's watching right now. I asked some of my brothers to come together tonight because the whole world is watching over George Floyd's the verdict today, the situation today. And these are my friends, these are colleagues, these are experts in local ministry. And I asked my brother Dante King to come on today, Ivan Campbell, businessman, Pastor Jeff from Baltimore, Maryland, and Jerome Bowie, Could Be Me Ministries, and others who may come in. Dwayne Freeman may be popping in, and some others may be popping in as we talk about our own news channel on the Pick TV Network News. Our news channel goes all over. And those who are watching with us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook Live, Marco Polo, you can send your comments in, and let's get right into it. The day we heard the verdict, Dr. Dante King marched together, we walked together, we talked together on several events, man. How did you feel? And tell me what you feel about this outcome today. Come on, sir.
Like most of us, this is not the first time we've seen something like this in our lifetime. We all can remember Rodney King, and I started my civil rights protest movement with Trayvon Martin, being in Sanford, marching with others. Ferguson to Missouri, I've been all around marching and protesting. But the sad reality is, although I'm happy that there was a verdict, we don't know what the sentencing is going to be yet. And so I'm not going to wait till over to begin to shout and celebrating. One thing I realized that we have a long road ahead of us. So yes, I'm glad there was a verdict, but I'm interested to see what the sentencing is going to be.
Dr. King, again, me and you have been in different marches together, man. We have seen things turn towards the good, the bad, and the ugly, And a lot of people don't know that you connected with our shop. You every event that goes on, you're right on the front line, man. I mean, from beginning to end. I couldn't even really watch too many of the trials because it was just touching some hidden parts in me, man. When it first came on, and I didn't know how was this thing gonna pop off. Was you feeling the same way, Dr. King, when you were watching the beginning of this thing?
Yeah, I'm feeling the same way. One thing I have to realize, first of all, I have to realize that the police department were actually deputized Klansmen that were responsible for now. That's where the police department of the United States came from. That's the origins of it. So that's what the root is, rooted in that. And so, I'm not surprised what happened, not surprised by the verdict. The verdict is not for us. The verdict is about the economy. They didn't want the cities to burn. Let's just be real about why what happened on today.
Definitely, Dr. King. When I look at you, man, and I know a lot of people look at it from the outside, but you look in the big part, and also you ask all the hard questions, man, about what was going to go down if it would have turned the other way. Bishop Lynette Twyman just popped in. He's my brother and friend for over 20 years. St. Stephen's Baptist Church. I asked him to come on. And those who are watching right now, you're on the Pick TV Network News Channel, our own news. We're covering the story of the outcome verdict of George Floyd today. And we have these great men on the line today, businessmen, professional men, and we're talking about how we feel when we see stories like this unfold. I want to go to Jerome Bowie. He's on now from Bowie, Maryland. I'm from Capitol Heights, Maryland. And Pastor Bowie, talk about how you felt, man, today. And also, you heard of another tragedy that happened this week in your neighborhood. So this is not the last thing that took place, man. Come on in and talk to us, Jerome Bowie.
But also, I understand that this is just one step to a long process of reform. A lot of stuff have to happen. This is one step to a long process. You have one person who's been found guilty of all counts, and you still have hundreds and hundreds of cases where they haven't even been televised or talked about. So we got a long process. This is step one to a long process. So, but I feel relieved. I feel relieved to know that he was found guilty on all three counts. Because I know a lot of us probably saying, what account he gonna be found guilty on? But all three accounts. So this is just one step to a long process. But I feel relieved to know that we're moving in the right direction. We understand as Black people, we stick together. We can make a lot of things happen if we stay together as one. Even biblically, when the Tower of Babel was being built, they was all in one accord and one mind. They could do anything, you know, when you got one accord and one mind. So I'm in a place now that we come together in one accord and one mind. A lot of other things can happen, but we have to stay together, and no one get the spotlight, no one get the glory but God. Let's just come together as one. So I feel relieved, but I also know we have a long process, like Pastor Dr. King was saying, you know, long process.
Pastor Boy, what about, man? Talk about what happened in your neighborhood this week, man. You told me somebody else lost their life, Doc. Inform us and educate us on what happened.
Oh yes, over here in Capitol Heights, over here at Ritchie Road Station, a young 14-year-old, 13-year-old boy was shot and killed by another 13-year-old boy. So that's another process taking place in Prince George County. We had the county executive out there. They had a county life vigil the other day. Can you imagine the mother dropping them off at Dave and Buster's and saying she coming back to pick him up an hour later, and she come back and her son is stretched out dead on the concrete. Wow, what a tragedy, you know. You know, I look at both lives, the young boy that was part of it, and also the person that was the person that shot him. So we got two 13-year-olds, one dead and one is charged with murder. So it's just a tragedy all around.
You know, all of us, and I'm going to jump in to talk with Bishop Twyman in a few minutes, and I'm going to come back to Dr. Dante King. I want you to talk about the first time. I don't know, all of us on this phone, we've been pulled over. We've been rushed post file. When I was 11 years old, walking in Silver Spring, Maryland, the police said you look like somebody who robbed somebody in the store or stole something, put me in a car. That was the first time I've been in a police car. I was walking by myself. I was so nervous, so afraid. And when they put me in a police car, and I didn't know what to do. I was only 10 or 11, 12 years old, Dr. King. And then I got out. They put me at the district line and told me to go back to D.C. where you belong. You know, anything could have happened to me, you know, at a young age like that. And that never left me. That's kind of scarred me. And even till this day, I can always remember that. And I did nothing. I did nothing wrong. But my life could have been taken at that particular time. Mr. Twyman, I want you to come in and talk about it, Doc, about how you felt today, and what do you think as we go forward that's going to make a change with this George Floyd situation? And some people say, did it make a difference? Some people say, you know, it's going to change. It's not going to change. I want to hear what you feel as a spiritual leader and a religious leader and community leader, a businessman from our DMV area. Come on,
Sure.
sir.
Hey, Dr. Evans, thank you again to all these colleagues, these anointed men of God. Absolutely. Of course, it makes a difference. Justice was served today. We're excited that the reality has come to fruition. There's somebody that's going to spend the rest of his life in jail for crimes that he did commit. I think that it's a blessing, no doubt about it. I think it is an indication that God is still on the throne in the midst of the injustices that we continue to face. Every now and then, God will flex. Every now and then, he'll remind us that He is in charge, and He's going to right. All the wrongs are going to be right. They're going to be made right. The scriptures are very clear concerning that. I think that we still have work to do. I think it does start in our communities. It starts at home. I'm happy on so many different levels, because we know that if that verdict was a little different, we'd be telling folk go home. We'd be telling folk, because we know that cities would have been burning throughout our country. So again, I'm happy that is taking place. Does does injustice still exist? Does racism still exist? Absolutely. I think that we, as African American, our communities, we have a responsibility to do, I believe, three things primarily. I think it has to, it always starts at home. I think we've got to make sure that as men of God, men, period, raising our children, taking care of our children, whether it's baby mamas, we've got to encourage our young boys. We got to help them because we still killing each other, and that's a reality that we may not want to discuss and talk about, but we got to stop killing each other too. And then nobody's saying anything about it. So when we're hearing week in and week out, every day, another gunshot victim in our communities at the hands of our own people. So that's a reality too, that we cannot sweep under the rug. We've got to make sure that's one piece of it. I think the other piece is our children. There are 4 or 5 different things. I got 3 sons, and there are 4 or 5 things that I've shared with them as young Black males, 27, 24, and 19. All of them are driving. All of them have their own cars. And there's some basic things that I pulled them aside and said, hey, I call it Twyman transportation rules. And I put them in writing. And a lot of it had to do with what do you do when you're pulled over? How do you respond to the police officers? Because again, if the truth be told, there are a lot of folk that are scared of African American men, period. There are a lot of people that wear badges and got guns and tasers, but are still afraid of the African American male. And so they become intimidated, nervous, scared, and can end up shooting because they're scared. And sometimes we can de-escalate some situations by our tone, by our actions. I tell my, one of the things that don't run because you get my opportunity to shoot you in the back. Do not run. And so I think that some very basic educational things, if you're wrong, you're wrong. And that's another story. If we're doing drugs and if we're dirty, that doesn't help the situation. And so, but when you look at, 3 or 4 things, and I know that when we have our children, we want to really encourage them to be respectful. Again, our tone, the way we talk, our hands out front, let them see them. Let them see all those things. Because again, folks, I thought he had a gun. Well, I thought he was reaching for something, all those things. So that's another piece. I think the other piece, of course, there has to be police reform. Still, there has to be additional training. There has to be, and I hope, again, the verdict today would send the right message to racist, crooked cops that, you will go to jail for inequities. You will go to jail. You will be prosecuted. So I pray that would help what we've seen today. But at the end of the day, so we still need police reform. We still need police training. I was talking to some of Prince George's County finest last week about the incident where the lady supposedly thought it was a taser and it was a Glock, and the average police officer, you don't get that mixed up. You just don't. But that kind of stuff, something ain't right somewhere. And I pray that receives a favorable judgment because You know, the boy took off running, but he didn't deserve to be shot. No doubt about that. And then I think the last thing is the church. The church. So it's government, family, and the church. Everybody playing a role. All of us as men of God, we got to still give folk Jesus. We still have a responsibility to tell the world that Jesus is the answer for the world today. Because if a heart is changed, a life is changed. And so when it comes to, so everybody plays a role. You know, the evangelicals can't be quiet in the midst of injustice in our country. I think that's a shame. Everybody ought to be talking. Silence does mean consent. Everybody needs to speak out against injustice. I don't care where it is. So that's just my take. I didn't mean to take up that much time, but again, that's
Dr. Evans, if I can jump
Yes,
in
sir.
for just
Yes,
and
sir.
I agree with what Bishop Twyman said. A few things, but I must give just a little kickback on some things. I understand police reform. You know, we've all marched, we've all been in protests. Unfortunately, the church, this generation, as much as we would like to reform the church, has lost our place when it comes to civil rights, because the church has been silent too often. We were more concerned about cash than we were souls. So we have to rectify that among ourselves before we address any of them. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear the Jesus we're preaching, because the Jesus we're preaching is a white European Jesus that they're sick of. So they're over him. What I'll say as far as reform is, this country is a capitalistic society in greed. The case today was great, but Michael Vick served more time without a video evidence of allegedly killing dogs than any officer have ever served combined in the history of the King. Let that sink in. Michael Vick served more time than all the officers combined have ever been convicted in our country. What language does this country speak? The dollar. Dr. King taught us in the bus boycott that when we get their attention, when the NBA said they weren't going to play, the NBA union, Coca-Cola, McDonald's got involved. Why? They don't care about black people. They care about your dollar. So until we learn how to take this $1.3 trillion and use it as leverage, they'll still kill us and shoot us. The only thing that'll be better is the quality of the video we recorded on.
Dr. King, you always, man, is a rough rider, man. He's always in every setting I come into Dr. King with. We've been marching together, and we were in protesting. A guy at the fish market in the community came up, and he had a Black Lives Matter shirt on, and the owner of that fish market said, "You can't come in here and be served with that." And we marched, and we talked, and we rallied, and we made a change. And Dr. King is always on the big scope of things. Even when we opened up this dialogue tonight and on the PIC TV Network news channel, he stated they knew what was going to happen. They knew if they would have ruled the other way, it would have been worse than Rodney King. It would have been worse than the other riot that took place last year. He said they knew that. So it was some politics along with what was happening today. But as Bishop Twine was saying, this is a day that
can I push back into? I'd like to have this dialogue with Dr. King, because I certainly respect him, no doubt about that.
Yes, sir.
You made the statement that the Jesus that we're preaching is a white. Can you allude? Can you expound on that? Because the Jesus that I preach is a life-changing, transforming God who
Yes, sir.
died for our sins.
So what I said,
and we shouldn't preach that.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying you said reaching this generation. I said this generation is a white European Jesus. So in other words, when they heard the gospel, they heard it from a white European perspective, and they weren't even included in the gospel. So what I'm saying, I'm not saying, oh, we preach Jesus, we're going to continue to preach Jesus, but the church, and I know we're talking about, but the church has to admit some of the foolishness that we taught. So my statement was, we were more concerned about cash than we were souls. So until we get back, and that's what Jesus was more concerned about, souls than cash. So until the church gets back and really teach and really take some of the European. I'm gonna say this real quick. Those of us who've been to Ghana or been to parts of Africa, they chain called a point of no return. On top of the point of no return, where the Africans were bound in chains. Exactly. There's a church that sits on top. You sing to a God, to a Jesus that allows you to beat and chain me. So they're asking questions now as it relates to civil rights, as it relates to God and Jesus, that we may never ask, but we have to answer. And at all times in the civil rights and justice people. That was my point. Not that we preach a European Jesus, but they've been seeing it from a European's perspective.
Got it.
Yeah, and I think Dr. King, when you come, like when I went to Bible college, and they gave, matter of fact, I still go down the basement and get the Western culture history subject book we use. And when we get to Genesis chapter 12, they skipped over it. I said, what about Ham, Shem, Japheth? That don't even worry about that. They literally skipped over it. I'm in the Bible college. I'm sitting there listening. So I think we have to have balance in when we do subjects and knowing what we have and what we stand our convictions on. Let's talk a little bit more about this George Floyd situation. We're so happy today. We have the public relationship persons who with us. Michelle Cox is on. She's all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. She's the only woman on tonight. She is a genius. She's our public relations person from the PIC TV network. Michelle, thank you for joining us tonight. How did you feel when you heard the verdict today? And, you being down in Atlanta, there's a lot going down there right now. And you've seen a lot happen in the last year since this took place. Give us a point from your wisdom, Michelle Cox.
Well, first off, the verdict was what it's supposed to be. I mean, we saw our brother get killed in the street, and it wasn't justified. There were so many things that he could have done from a law and order standpoint that had nothing to do with the fact that he put a knee on this gentleman's neck for almost 9 minutes and did not render him aid when his crime wasn't punishable by death in no means, and we have due process. So the verdict was what it was supposed to be. But my thing is, and where I see our world, we have to now make sure that we have the correct alliances, because I can't say it's a training issue, because it should be a human decency issue. You should be thinking, especially when you've got someone unarmed, why is it always when you see a black man or when someone sees a black man or black people, that's a threat? But you have white people that are beating up cops, driving off in their vehicles, literally doing anything they want to. And it's never questioned, but they get subdued without being murdered. When are we going to answer that question? And I yield the floor.
Yeah, that's big. And I'm going to have Ivan Campbell to come in and Pastor Jefferson from Baltimore. But I want to bring Bishop Twyman back in. Bishop Twyman, not all cops are bad. You work with them every Tuesday. You have 200 to 300 people. No, you have 5,800 people that you serve food even today. And you have most of the PG police are out there serving, helping, and giving. Not all are bad. Can you talk about the good side, Bishop Twyman, for a second?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that
and let me interject. Let me interject. You preached a funeral a couple of years ago. A police was driving down to Route 5.
It was Route 5.
He ran into a pole.
Ran into
a pole. Massive. Killed instantly, just like that. You didn't shut your doors of the church. You opened it up. Not only you had the chief of police, You couldn't even get in. There was so many polices in that service at the church, the parking lot, the building, everything. You had a chance to speak to everybody in that setting. 90% of them were police officers in your church in that setting. And I want you to sell it balanced, man, because we got millions of people watching. Not all are bad. Come on.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, we all know that the police are there to serve and protect, ideally. We've got police officers that are fathers and mothers and aunts and uncles and cousins that have a sincere desire to keep our community safe. We know that all police are not bad. And I think that we've got to make sure that we continue to communicate that narrative as well, because at the end of the day, we got relatives, our loved ones are police officers, and they have put their lives on the line, to certainly wouldn't want to do it, but I commend. We've had first responders appreciation services. As a matter of fact, we just had one last year, just to say thank you to all of the first responders, because again, it can be discouraging. It can be discouraging for those who are serious about serving and protecting. The reality is all cops, Black, white, Latino, Asian, are not bad. All white cops are not bad. And the reality is there may be some bad Black cops. But at the end of the day, I think that we have to make sure that we don't forget to celebrate and to say thank you for that police officer that stopped the domestic violence attacks. Thank you to the police officer that did pull the baby and child out of the burning car. I lived in Clinton. When I was living in Clinton, house across the street, the brother was literally he was freebasing, and it blew up. The house blew up. The police comes. We see the house on fire. We call the police. The brother opens the policeman is knocking on the door. The brother opens the door, sees the police, and slams the door in the police face. This is a brother. He literally kicks the door in and brings the man out of the burning house. That's a hero. That's a hero. That brother was going to die in the house after getting high. And so those are the stories that that need to be told about the impact that police officers make. At the same time, all the bad apples need to go. The bad apples need to be dealt with. And thank God for video. Thank God for body cameras, because the reality is the truth is going to be told. It's being recorded, and it's coming out. And the blessing at the same time is we can celebrate all of the good that a lot of the police officers have done. I thank God. I was speeding one time. I was speeding down Branch Avenue, and one pulled me over, and he let me go. I know. So let me say that at the end of the day, we've got to make sure that, because again, you all know some police officers. We've got 4 or 5 of them that are with us every Tuesday. We're serving 4,000 or 5,000 families every Tuesday with our food giveaway. And that line is packed all the way up. It's a mile long from 11 to 3 p.m. every Tuesday. And we've got police officers that serve, they help keep order, and they'll be delivering boxes. They'll be putting boxes in cars to help us. So again, at the end of the day, this is not an indictment on the entire police force all across the world. This is an indictment on bad police officers, and I hope they get the message that injustice will not be tolerated and will be persecuted. That's my prayer, that this trend will continue and the injustices will stop.
Yeah, that's an amazing aspect, and we have balance here. And I'm gonna bring in Brother Campbell. He serves as one of the co-founders on the Pick TV network, even the news channel. Pray for him. He's under the weather. He doesn't have COVID, thank God. But praying for him for a minute. He's going to speak on the political aspect. He's worked on Capitol Hill. He's worked with the Obama administration. He's traveled from Washington D.C. to Atlanta. He has his own business that he works on, and he's again a part of the Pick TV network. Brother Campbell, come on, talk about for the like 3 minutes about the political side, and was this a political choice even today with the verdict? Come on, sir.
Thank you very much, everybody, for your insights. And I just have to well, two things. I think the response should be telling enough that people didn't actually think that we would actually get a guilty verdict. People were surprised, and that speaks volumes because there was no question in my mind. If you put your full body's weight on somebody's neck for 9 minutes and change, that you're going to stop them from breathing. So the fact that they said he died by the exhaust, or he had a heart problem, or he was on drugs, and that was their defense. And for the first time, the blue wall of silence broke. The police chief, examiner, and others came out and said, "That's not the training that we taught him." So I'm going to respectfully disagree with Bishop Diamond here. Not all police officers are bad, but all these officers in the past that have kept silent, they've been complicit to murders, to abuse, to violation of the oath, to the uniform, and they've created a situation that we're in now, where 12-year-olds are being shot, innocent black women are being shot, children are seeing their fathers murdered in front of them in a car, unarmed, day in, day out, day in, day out. They're no longer patrolling the streets. They're no longer serving and protecting. Go back to Bishop, and I support what Bishop King said. Pastor King said that police officers are slave patrol. That was the foundation, the original reason why the police department was created. And they were created to protect and serve the rich, protect their property and serve the rich. So what are they doing now? You know, they're still doing the same thing. Politically, um, we have to look at how police have been trained. They've been militarized across the board. They're trained to kill. They're trained to kill. They're not trained to shoot you in the leg. They go for the heart and the head. You know, why is that you don't hear of somebody's wounded by police? They're shot in the leg. They're shot in the back. They're shot in the heart. They're shot in the head. Our police officers are trained and given the equipment and support as if they're doing urban warfare. And that's only in black, brown communities. They don't have these type of response in white communities. We have been we think that because the law is on the books means that it's justified. We think because been given a guilty verdict, meaning that he's going to be given 40 years or serving 30 years in jail for murder. There's appeals. The young lady that broke into the guy's house and shot him said that she was in the wrong house. She's still on appeal, saying, you know, there's all kind of issues that she's contesting. This is a long process, a long fight. America has it was created on hate. America was created on racism. It was created on bias. It was created on bigotry. We have to shift to understand that we are all humans. And that's not what's being seen here. They don't see us as humans. When they put the badge on, when they put the uniform on, they see us as threats. They don't operate in the same way in white communities. So this wasn't a success today. This was what it should have been. I was surprised by it because we've never seen it. We haven't seen it before. So something has changed over the last couple of years that they actually found him guilty on all three charges. So I was pleasantly surprised by that, and hopefully it brings some type of comfort to the family to know that verdict came down. But we hadn't even scratched the surface. There's still so many cases that is ongoing. So many people has been locked up because of bias, innocent, framed, meeting quotas, meeting numbers, didn't have the money to pay bail because of their economic situation. America is a place where it'd be the best place in the world, and at the same time, one of the worst places in the world. They both occupy the same space. So it is time we need to use the energy that's taking place right now to organize, push for reform, push that non-lethal force are used. Um, most traffic stops, you know, there's not, it's unwarranted. There's no need to pull somebody over because you mistakenly didn't notice that they had a temporary tag in the back window. And when you noticed it, you should have apologized for delaying them and move on about your business. Don't ask them for their license. You don't have to show your license. Do you have it? Yes, I have it. Are you asking for it? Why? Did I do something wrong? You know, don't talk to a cop on the side of the street. I ask for the sergeant. I'm not going to talk to this guy. I'm going to call immediately 911. I'm being pulled over. I need to verify this is a real officer, and I'm calling for a sergeant because this guy's already juiced up coming to my window. He's expecting that I'm going to look to do something wrong or say something. So he's coming with that expectation. He's coming for a fight. So I'm on the phone with 911. I am making sure that you are actually the right officer to be in this jurisdiction. I'm asking for your sergeant, and we'll just wait for your sergeant to come before we proceed. Keeping 911 on the phone. You know, we have to understand our rights. And until we organize, it doesn't matter if we're lawyer, doctor with a suit on or a hoodie on. When they decide that they're going to actually kill you, they do all they can to get you to that point where they're pulling you out the car, pepper spraying you, putting a bullet in your back, and we have to figure out you know, how to survive and get through this process and change the system. So I don't think anything that politically we can do about it, but economically is where our power come in. We have to utilize our economic power to boycott, to force the change that we are actually requiring, demanding, and make sure it happens because we all have children that we want to see grow up and live a healthy, long life, free of torture and terror by the police department. And if they wear the uniform and they don't speak up, they are complicit and they are as guilty as the person that's doing the harassing, doing the shooting, doing the killing. Because at the end of the day, there's only one uniform. Doesn't matter if it's brown, green, blue, black. If they're law enforcement, once they have that badge on, they all stand for the same thing. There's no differentiating. So if it's just one bad apple, they have to call that bad apple out. Until they do that, they're all the same.
That's amazing, Brother Campbell, who've been on Capitol Hill, worked with the Obama administration, and in balancing. I really thank God for Pastor Twyman, who works with police, and said that piece. But when you look at the bad apples, I hold a book right now. This book is called Born to Win, but Destined to Lose. And it's from my godson, who is Raymond Carter. Raymond Carter, Dr. King, was driving down the road with his homeboys, 17, 18 years old. And they pulled him over, said somebody got shot. He's sitting in his jail cell right now. He's been there for 28 years. 28 years. He writes me every week and said, I would be dead if it wasn't for you, Godfather, to praying me through. He's in prison right now. So while we out here talking about, how it feels to be in balance, he's behind bars looking at this. I'm going to call him. But, Pastor Bowie been there. Pastor Jerome Bowie, who's on this line, he's been behind bars. He knows how it feels to hear the doors shut. I've never been there before. He knows how it is to be free from that situation. But I say this to say that, and I'm gonna bring in Brother Jefferson, Pastor Jefferson, on. We definitely have to pray. We need balance. And is this a true victory for all of us? Brother Jefferson, you from Baltimore, you see a lot going on over there, man. Come on to the
Yeah,
stage and talk to us.
I have to agree with Brother Ian. When you scroll through Facebook and everybody's shouting and showing gifs of people shouting and all of these things, I think it's a small victory, but we should not spend a whole lot of time celebrating this victory because there's so much more work to be done. This is 2 out of, 300-400. I grew up in the same neighborhood that Mike Brown got shot in, and so, it's a small victory, but, as we look at even in deeper depth, look at the charges that he was charged on. Unintentional murder, knowing that he had all intentions on murdering that man. 3rd-degree murder, which hasn't been on the books in a long time in the state of Minnesota, but never taken off the books. So we have to see, all of these things that are going on. As an educator, we have to really educate people. I'm a high school principal, so we have to educate our boys, our Latino boys, our Black boys, and even educate our white boys. The work starts earlier than just hitting the police departments with reform. The work starts in our school systems when we're talking about being anti-racist. The work starts when we are correcting people when they are making racist comments and prejudice comments. The work starts even in our own home by correcting our kids when they're saying prejudice things. The work begins when you are correcting teachers for being anti-racist, for being racist. And so the work starts, if in the systems at which most of our kids spend a third of their day in, which is in school. And so our school, I think as we continue to push for police reform, we need to push for school districts to have more professional development on being anti-racist. So we change their mindset when they're in elementary, middle, and high school. We change their mindset, and then when they do become a police officer, they're not coming in the police officers as being a racist automatically. So I think it really starts earlier than just police reform. It's getting them while they're in the school systems as we continue to fight to push for school systems to not teach tolerance, teach anti-racism, and try to create a classroom for every child that is anti-racist. And I think that's where it starts. But yeah, we celebrate for a moment tonight, only for a moment, because it's one. Just think of the last, the mass shooters. We've had 20-some mass shootings in the last 2 months. And the majority of those mass shooters, if they did not turn the gun on themselves, they walked away. We're not, nobody's looking at that number. We are not fighting, the right fight. We got to fight for injustice, and we celebrate. But I posted this on Facebook earlier today. We celebrate, but we have to fight another day. So we can't celebrate too much where we stop fighting.
And I totally agree with that, Dr. Evans. I totally agree with that. I don't know if any of you all know that since the verdict happened in March the 29th, 33 Black people have gotten shot by the police.
Mm-hmm.
This year, since March the 29th, got shot by police officers. Haven't heard the story. We understand racism. Here's the thing about racism. I don't think it'll ever go away because racism comes with privilege.
Yes.
If you ask the average 6-figure earning white person Would you trade places with Oprah? They'll tell you no. I did a diversity class in North Carolina. They said no, they wouldn't want to trade places with Oprah. Oprah's a billionaire. You only make six figures because they know that at the end of the day, you're talking about something that comes with privilege and benefits that's hard to give up. Racism goes beyond you calling me the N-word. Racism goes to the point that you would never give me a chance. You would never step back and allow me to step up. Just saying, we're going to march with you, that doesn't mean nothing. Give up your position and put them on what's in there. We still find it in the NFL, the NBA, the hiring practices when it comes to having coaches, qualified coaches, they're still being looked over. So you're asking that is built on racism, that the very root and fiber of this country is racism. A country who along with the Catholic Church, who endorsed slavery. So you have an institute like Stokely Carmichael called it. So it's ingrained. So what we, once again, and I will say this to the day I die, until we control our $1.8 billion. Yes, they burned Black Wall Street down. Why? Why? Because there were too many powerful, rich Black people. And so until Black lives matter to Black people, until our Black dollar matters to us, and we stop standing in carry-out restaurants with Chong Fung Yu, who don't care nothing about you, who don't give to your community, yes, I said it, and support each other, we'll still march in kumbaya until Jesus come back. Until we control our dollar, we'll never control the narrative.
Well,
I chime in on that, Bishop. Well, I have a bunch of videos, and man, Evans talked about this, Dante King, of all types of stuff to have a police department. And Twyman, this is incredible. I have a bunch of videos. Now let's go to a couple of them just to talk about real quick. One of the videos was when the military man was pulled over and he was pepper sprayed. First of all, he had his hands out of the car. And I know, Twyman, you teach that to your sons. Comply. He complied to everything. Then he also said something. He said, I was afraid. I'm afraid. And the white police officer told him, you ought to be afraid. That's the kind of time I was living in. This is the police officer told him, you ought to be afraid. Wow, this is the time we're living in. He had his hands out the car, complied to the police. He told him I was afraid. And the white police, who was racist, said, you ought to be afraid. Then we have another incident where you have a white man in the car pulled up by the white police officers. And this man not only disrespected the police, he got out of the car and they face cussed him from one end of the street to the other end of the street. Police walked him back to his car. He got in his car, got back out of his car, and cussed the police again. We had Black folks being killed sitting in their car. This man got out of his car and threatened the police, called him every name. And the man said, you going to go to jail. Get in your car. You going to jail. So, like you said, white privilege is real. I mean, wow. I say, my goodness, my goodness. And then I have another video. When we're going to put these videos out one day, we're going to talk about them. Where the police officer is telling 7 Black people on the porch, fussing with them, he told them, I will send you to your grave. This is a police officer with his uniform on telling these Black people this because they had a disagreement about something. So this is times we're living in. So a lot of stuff has to be confronted. And it's like you said, the camera, this is not new. It's just that now it's being recorded. That's all.
Well, Pastor, while you're totally correct, let's also think about this. A lot of people don't know what racism really is. And we're talking about a lot of people, we're talking about white America. When we talk about racism, racism is power plus prejudice. And that equals the oppression of Black people. And it's what it's always been. Mm-hmm. I grew up in Mississippi in Jim Crow. And unfortunately, still today, what we see is this rampant racist tactic. They were using police as slave patrols back then. They still use them to patrol. They still think we're 3/5 human. And it's not true. But what we have to do is, number one, like Mr. King said, we need to mobilize our Black dollars, but we have to bring up our young men and young women so they understand the history. A lot of them are walking around thinking because their white friends are colorblind that they can afford to be colorblind, and they cannot. It's too deadly of a time. Black people, Black women, and Black men are still dying. We're still being accosted by police officers. No, all police officers aren't bad. I have police officers that are friends and that handle situations very well. But as I said before, this isn't a training issue. This is a human issue. And we have people that don't respect human life, especially black people's human life. And that's where we have to root that out of our systems. I yield the floor.
Yeah.
And we have to respect our own human life. I think Twyman said about the young black people killing each other. We gotta respect each other. We gotta stop in our videos. The black woman is the most disrespected woman on earth. Until we stop calling our black women bitches and hoes and videos, if they're gonna do is twat and twerk, until we stop white people to respect us, but that's all we call each other. We got videos on Facebook, we fight each other. That's the lesson we need to teach our young people. You don't see Jews doing that. You don't see Asian people posting videos of them cussing each other out and they call their Asian women hoes. The lesson we got to teach.
Yeah, Dante King. I'm just gonna call him Dante King. He always shooted from the hip, man. He don't cut. He don't hold nothing back. He says it, man, how he feels and puts it out there, and that's where we have to be real. Like I said, we marched together. We've been in situations where it could have got real violent, when we were together protesting at the restaurant where they wouldn't let this young man come in because he had a Black Lives Matter shirt on. Dante King was out there every day in the heat of the sun, 90 degrees, 95 degrees. He had his bullhorn, not just talking, but putting action behind what he believes in. And I think we have to do that. I want to come back to Bishop Twyman again, because, again, Bishop Twyman, we have police watching this right now. You have police that you see every Tuesday and more. You set the balance there, and I know a lot of them were on the right side for this thing. And I want to ask a question and open it up to the panel tonight. Those who are watching right now, you're watching the PIC TV Network News channel. We have our own news channel on our 60 channels on the PIC TV Network. Tonight, we took a pause break to this breaking story that's covered around the world about George Floyd and the verdict. We're going to take a break and have a commercial, and we're going to come right back with Bishop Twyman, and he's going to be talking about, again, the right balance for today, right after this commercial break. And we're going to come right back with you. And again, tell somebody, push that like button, push that share button, bring somebody in to our presentation today.
We've all been hurt at some point, even abandoned. Many of us have done the hurting ourselves. We get to the point where we don't trust anyone, nor do we feel worthy of being loved by anyone. Then there's that one person who just doesn't give up on loving you. Their love is unconditional. Their love stays long enough for you to heal. And then they promise to never leave. That's love you can count on. God's love.
Hey, everybody. Thank you again for tuning in to our PIC TV Network News today. We're so happy for all of you who are on watching. And we're just talking about the biggest news story over the world right now. It's covering the globe. And I brought these generals in, these businessmen in, and women in today talking about police and on the right side and the wrong side. I want to bring Bishop Twyman back in again. Talk about that funeral you had, Doc. And I don't know if you remember the message you even preached, but I know it was covered over the news. I know the pressure was on you to preach that eulogy, and you didn't have a envy or bitterness about it. How did you handle that? I know a lot of people couldn't handle that. Come on, Bishop Twyman.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I agree with my colleagues as it pertains to the systemic racism that exists in government, in businesses throughout the world. But I think that I certainly, my focus is not just on the negativity, but to recognize the positives that come. One of the biggest issues is, I mean, we can be guilty of something that we're accusing other people of, and that is a stereotypical attitude toward certain people. You cannot say you cannot say that all police officers are bad. You can't say that all white police officers are racist. You can't do that. I think it's so important that we recognize that there is some good in police forces, and granted, yes, in some areas there's a code that they have and saying, okay, let's protect that. But at the end of the day, the truth is going to always prevail. I think at the end of the day, the truth is always going to prevail. And when I see police officers that do serve and protect, not just white privilege, but do serve and protect in our communities. And of course, I grew up in Northeast DC. So I've seen both sides. I've seen police officers. I've seen Black police officers plant marijuana in people's cars. At the same time, I've seen police officers serve and protect with sincerity. And I think that that's the piece. We cannot have the mindset that all of them are bad. Is there a system in place that needs reform? Absolutely. Is there a system that we as citizens and government should hold police departments accountable in their areas of responsibility to really serve and protect and really define what that really means across the board? Absolutely. But you cannot throw the baby out with the bathwater, if you will. You've got to recognize that, hey, there is some good in the police departments. There is some good. It's not all bad. It's not all negative. And I think that's where I decide I want to make sure that we highlight that piece, because again, a lot of these police officers are serious about making the communities better, and they have to go home to their families. They have to go home and I don't know if you know any police officers personally that are serious about making the communities better, serving communities. And I do. And I know that their hearts are good. I know that they want what's best for our communities. And I think that we've got to make sure that we don't leave that piece out, because we become adversarial to a whole government is not all bad. I think scriptures are very clear on the purpose of government and the purpose of authority in society. And if we throw all of that out, then we've got anarchy and chaos and lawlessness. And I think that's the danger. We say, well, let's just forget about we just gonna police ourselves. Well, I don't know how safe that would be for all of us. So again, I respect and understand that the significance and importance of government and authority and policing and the necessity for it in our culture.
Yeah,
But all police officers are not bad. I agree, but there needs to be uniformity nationwide. You can have things like citizen review boards, and I talked to several police citizen review board. It's nice. Internal affairs need to be changed.
Absolutely.
If I shoot someone, it shouldn't go to internal affairs, because once again, we're the fraternal order. Anybody that says anything about fraternities and sororities, you know what your fraternal order is. So yeah, I think it needs to be a more systematic approach to it.
I know police reform, absolutely, that kind of thing, bringing citizens on to make those decisions. I agree.
Yeah, I want
But
to ask.
again,
I want to
I
ask.
apologize.
Yeah, I want to. I'm gonna come to you, um, uh, Dr. Michelle, because I was going to bring you in anyway. The situation with George Floyd, and I want to ask Alvin Campbell this too, who worked in Capitol Hill, and I'm gonna have you to go to first, Michelle. Do you think the situation with George Floyd, had the cameras not been on, and it wouldn't have been recorded, and it wouldn't have been televised around the world, that call, the situation would have been totally different. With this phone, is everybody is their own news reporter when they have one of these devices, which can go viral, which it did around the world. Thank God for modern technology. But as Dr. King was alluding, while we were even talking today, I got a call from one of our partners. She said, "My son just got shot." I called to ask her, is he alive or not? And I still haven't had word. So we still have a lot of work to do, and I wanted to ask that question to you, Michelle. Um, had not this situation, and I know you never saw nothing like this in your life, and I know you in Atlanta, Georgia tonight, where a lot of crazy stuff was popping off last year around this time down there. But had it not been recorded and it wouldn't have been viral around the world and everybody didn't see it, it would have been a lot different. Come on, Michelle.
Well, let's be totally honest. If there had not been video, number one, you could count on it more than likely there would not have been a trial. The evidence possibly could have been suppressed. I'm not saying that 100% of the time, but we've had video in other circumstances, and it still didn't get a guilty verdict. What's happening now is the people that can no longer repudiate the truth, and they say they're our allies, have started to step up and say, this has got to stop. This is unreasonable treatment. I even wrote about it. It's called unintentional allies. They can't even afford to be unintentional anymore. They have to live with intention and see what they saw. And so that's why things are changing. But if it had not been for video and today's technology, no, I sincerely think in my heart that this would not be a guilty verdict. And even though it was a guilty verdict, as the gentleman before me stated, this was third degree. It's third degree. This is not even hardly used on the books. Third degree for an intentional murder. You have to think about what that says. I yield the floor.
Okay, I really want to make it clear that, you know, my number one career choice is law enforcement. So I've been, whether it's policy, whether it's internationally, it's all about law enforcement. It's about enforcing the law, democracy, policy. It's my 27 years I've been about law enforcement. And before that, you can ask somebody that grew up with. They ask you what Ian's going to be when he grows up, and they'll tell you Ian's going to be a cop. So um, I understand law enforcement very well. I understand people that have to take the risk and protect lives, kick down doors very, very, very closely. It's personal. So, when you're on a team, you win the championship. Even the guys on the bench celebrate. Everybody wins. When you're on a team and the starting players have a reputation for, breaking bones and being aggressive, the team gets a reputation for being aggressive. Police officers globally are a team. You walk up to any law enforcement agent officer around the globe and you have a nod, a brotherhood, a camaraderie. So it's one team. it is one team. If one person is bad, the entire team is bad. If one person is good, the entire team is good. The reputation is not just about this one cop or this one cop. There's one cop in every jurisdiction that's doing something crazy. Therefore, there's a reputation that the entire police department force across the country and around the world. It's all the same. Right after George Floyd incident took place and he was murdered, the next couple days, it was in Madrid, it was in London, it was in um, other places around the globe. Police officers were caught doing the very same thing within days and weeks after George Floyd. It's a mindset. It's a certain training. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of understanding how they are. The team is responsible for the actions of the individual. The coaches are responsible for the team. So I don't care if my brother was a police officer. I wouldn't want to be stopped by him either. Because once he has the uniform and the badge on, it doesn't matter if he's black, it doesn't matter if he's yellow. Sorry, excuse me. It doesn't matter if he's black, Asian, Indian, Polish. They're all seen in the same way because people see the badge first, they see the lights, and they know the threat. They know that for no reason whatsoever, for saying, "Hey, officer, um, why'd you pull me over?" Oh, no, I'm being dragged out the car, being beaten in the head, and being locked up. All caught on camera, and the officer is going to be saying, well, he was justified. So, yes, this is rare that this verdict came down because from Rodney King on, we don't see justice being done. Police have become judge, jury, and executioner on the scene. You have images of a woman in a car being shot. You have images of a child running away at 10, 12, 6 years old being shot or shot at. You have countless images of black men being murdered in cold blood, now live on TV for everybody's entertainment. It doesn't matter if there's one good cop or one bad cop.
Going to church all my life.
It is the responsibility of the good person to make sure that the bad person is held accountable. And if they don't, they are as complicit. The same way, if one person with a gun is in a car with 16 other people in a van or bus, and there was a robbery or a murder, that gun is everybody's being charged with the same doggone crime. You can't have it both ways. Police officers have to be held accountable the same way. If I'm in a car with somebody who just shot somebody, robbed somebody, raped somebody, killed somebody, I'm doing the same time. And even if the person who did the crime say, hey, they had nothing to do with it, we all going down. They don't care. We're all doing 25, 30 years. So it wouldn't matter if my mother was a cop. I would feel the same way and I would say the same thing because it's about the uniform. It's about the badge, the power and authority that goes with it. With that authority comes a responsibility that you have to uphold. When you're walking the streets, those little kids are looking up at you. My son, 6 years old, would walk up to police officers. Hey, how you doing, officer? You have a badge I can get? He's been watching this stuff for the last 2, 3 years. He's terrified. He's terrified. He no longer wants to be a cop. At 6 years old, he's going to be 6 on Sunday. He no longer wants to associate or be affiliated with cops because cops kill people. That's all we see on TV. That's all we see on TV is cops killing people, shooting 13-year-old boys when they turn around, even if they had a gun. I am trained. I'm supposed to be able to, in a split second, decide whether I'm going to take somebody's life or not because of my training, my training, my training. To know, see the hands, that's why they go through shooting drills. So I don't care. If you have fear of your life, get another job. Be a security guard. Don't be in law enforcement. The job comes with risk. You don't shoot first and then check and see if they had a gun. If there's one bad apple, it reflects on everybody. That's just bottom line.
And I understand.
Because if my skull, my height, my weight, my color, All that makes me automatic threat. They don't want to talk to me first. They walk up to me, guns drawn, suit on or not.
Yeah, that's real talk about Campbell. In working on Capitol Hill, man, I know you've been there so many times working with the Obama administration, man. I've seen you going to the meetings and everything. And we're gonna close in about another 10 minutes, and we're gonna do a part two to this. Those who are watching right now, you watch the Pick TV Network news channel. We're on around the world on our own news channel on the Pick TV Network News. And I thank you for tuning in, staying with us. Those who are watching us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook Live, Marco Polo, even if you're listening in Clubhouse, thank you for tuning in. We're talking about the trial today, the verdict, George Floyd, who is a part of our family. When you think about him, all of us feel it. I want to open this up to Dr. King and Dr. Campbell for a different approach to what happened at the White House. And as soon as we talked about the former president, you said we need to get him out, Campbell. The same night, I called you, said we got to get him out. Then, Brother King, do you think the orchestration, did everybody get caught who was a part of that? Are they still alive? Are they still walking today? Talk about this, Dr. King, about what happened storming at the Capitol. How was that orchestrated or put together? Talk about that. How you feel about that, Dr. King?
That was back in probably about the 1700s with the Boston Tea Party. Actually, take it back. That was orchestrated back when the Mayflower came to America and the white man killed the Indians, raped them, gave them diseases, and felt that they have an entitlement. It was just a sense of entitlement. This is our country. Whatever we want, we take. We don't earn it, we'll take it, we'll storm it. If we don't like it, we'll be barbaric about it. So this was planned when they first came here. And I know you may not want to get into it tonight, and I hope I get invited back next week, Dr. Evans. But the fact of the matter is that when you're dealing with people who have a barbaric nature, the bottom line, not everyone is everyone wrong. Not everyone is wrong. But like my brother said, perception is reality. And the perception is that white people have a sense of entitlement. Perception is that you can't trust police. Perception is I'm not going to send my child to a Catholic school with a priest. I mean, do all priests rape little boys? No, but do I want to take a chance with my child? Of course I don't. So we got to get over that part of it as well. That people have in America, they run this country. They can do whatever they want to do, get away with it without any consequences. And guess what? That's their reality. So they didn't plan this. Listen, Trump, say this real quick, and I'm going to shut up. As Dr. King, as Malcolm X said, a case of chicken come home to roost. You created Trump. They created Trump with the Tea Party. I call him Trumpenstein. You created this monster. Now you can't control him. So this is just what America is. I mean, a network, maybe there needs to be a private conversation. We're dealing with some ruthless people who took everything across the globe through violence, tyranny, and through terror. They're terrorists. So until we deal with shootings, mass shootings, and call risks and treat them in such a way, they'll still have this privilege.
I want to bring in Brother Cameron. I know you just came off, but when you saw what happened at the Capitol, I think we talked about it that day. Matter of fact, you were driving down there. You were carrying some of the people to the event down there the whole week at the Capitol. But when you seen that orchestrated and taking place, storming the Capitol, coming in there, kicking up there, even some of the officers who worked there help orchestrate whatever's going on. Campbell, come on and talk to us for a minute before we close out.
It's amazing to think about what happened. You have armed militia around the Capitol, entering the Capitol, and not one on the perimeter. There was no standoff. There was no force. I mean, people weren't afraid of their lives. I mean, I don't understand. How come they didn't shoot? So it's a certain mindset to say that, oh, they're going to have a Black Lives Matter protest, bring out Black Hawk helicopters, bring out the military, pepper spray. We're gonna have sound bombs. It's just ridiculous that that type of force, who we knew was coming. I knew they were going to be there when Trump announced it in December. So for people to say, "Oh, we just didn't know," it was just like, how could you not know? How could you not be prepared? How could you not be on the ready? There were too many people involved who allowed it to happen. You know, there's no question about whether or not it was orchestrated by on multiple fronts, because a young white kid can have an assault weapon, can kill or shoot at 6, 7, 13 people, can kill 8, 15, 20 people, and then walk into the arms and be welcomed by police. You can have people armed to the teeth, and you have members of Congress saying they felt safe. I would say that if you felt safe, you wouldn't have been hiding under your desk. If people felt safe, they wouldn't have been running and hiding because they didn't know what this mob, these terrorists, were going to do. So we can, play. We already know what it is. If you're a person, or if you're an immigrant and a person of any kind of melanated hue in your soul, we know what racism looks like. We've experienced it. We're watching it on TV every day. We're hearing people say it every day. It's now out in the open. I think Donald Trump was going to be going down as one of the greatest leaders of all time, because no one in the history of America or in the world have been able to galvanize Asian people, Dutch people, Canadian people, American people, British people, Japanese people to come together and join a Black Lives Matter march. Russians, everybody's is a Black Lives Matter protest, because Donald Trump have done more to bring light to how terrible situation is here for certain individuals than anybody else in history. And it has continued to unfold under his leadership. All the facade, all the smokes and mirrors, he took all that down and showed it for what it really is. So now we have to go and repair and deal with and clean up and address and talk about and hug and cry, and a lot of work to be done. So was Donald Trump a necessary evil? I think so. Is it painful to go through and now repair and clean up and deal with all this stuff? You know, the Civil War never ended. So until we deal with the issues of the Civil War, this is where we are. So it's still the North versus the South. And all the people that, fought in support of democracy, we're still having that fight. The hypocrisy of the American Constitution is what we're dealing with. It's the system is built on an unequal balance. We need to have for this system to work, for capitalism to work, the few need to be in control of the many economically, and if they're losing their grip, they unleash the mob. They start a war. They distract and shoot some woman, or do something terrible. That's been the history. It's a pattern. We can know what's next. Now that this case has been shown as verdict is guilty, don't lose sight of the 300 or 400 others that's going on. Don't celebrate. We need to take that same attention and turn to every other case, the ones from today, the ones going back the last 10, 15 years, and pay attention to all the things that's going to happen when we're not paying attention. All the news reports that's not going to report everything that's happening, because they got too much attention. So they're not going to, pretty soon they're going to start taking the cameras out of the courtrooms. Too much attention. So be prepared for all the changes that's going to happen. That I yield on.
Brother Campbell, Brother Clark, let's already talk about the changes. Let's talk about the changes in Georgia. Republicans voted in a bill to suppress voters here in Georgia. So the changes are already here. We just have to recognize that it's already happening, and we have to be vigilant.
100%, absolutely right. Look at the changes that's taking place across the country. More states have voted in more repressive voting restrictions than ever before. So it's happening, and unless we organize, and people need to realize this, America is not about black or white. I've learned under Donald Trump it's about rich and poor. You know, Poor whites still think that they have more privilege. Well, they know they have more privilege than poor blacks, than rich blacks. To the example, 100,000 person making 100,000 a year wouldn't want to be Oprah because at the end of the day, they know what it is. Their white skin gives them privilege, unlike anything else that we can possibly earn. So it's for people to look at the humanity and for us to understand that we have more billionaires than we can count, and we have more poverty now than ever before. We don't need another nonprofit to create some organization to decide who they're going to fund. God damn, just buy the food and give to the people. We have farmers that's sitting around, just food just going to waste. You know, if we had a billionaire take over a farm and truck the food into these communities, it's just a waste. We throw away more food on a daily basis that could feed this nation and everything in this side of of the Americas. It's an absolute disgrace.
Yeah,
The list of issues is so long and complex. We have to start somewhere. So let's hold these folks accountable. Let's control our purse, and let's force them to get off our necks.
yeah, we have to make the change. We have to be the change, and that's why we're having our own news channel on the big Pick TV network, our own African American network that we're reaching people around the world. This is why we're on. I'm going to come back. We're going to close out with closing words, and I'm going to ask that we should try and close us out in prayer. Jerome Boy, I want you to say something, and I want to come back. When we come back after this commercial, I want Michelle Cox from Atlanta, just to give us an update on, the vibes that's there. She's down there working hard. She's with the Pick TV network with our public relations team, and she's spearheading a lot of things coming to the network. As a matter of fact, she did an interview on this Sunday, and it was just an amazing aspect of what she sees about our own, how important it is to have our own Black American, African American owned television network, so we can do what we're doing now. We're not on ESPN, we're not on CNN, we're not on NBC or Fox 5, but we got just as much to present to the world, and we have an avenue and a platform to tell it. Let's take a commercial, and we're going to come right back right after this.
We've all been hurt at some point, even abandoned. Many of us have done the hurting ourselves. We get to the point where we don't trust anyone, nor do we feel worthy of being loved by anyone. Then there's that one person who just doesn't give up on loving you. Their love is unconditional. Their love stays long enough for you to heal. And then they promise to never leave. That's love you can count on. God's love.
This one. And this is why our own television network, we can broadcast our own, air our own, and they don't have to cut us off because we say something that's not within the guidelines. We talk about what's happening in our community. We're talking about what's happening in the nation's capital. When we talk about our city with Dante King, with Jerome Bowie, with Ian Campbell and Bishop Lynette Twyman, who serves 3,000 to 5,000 people every Tuesday, working to help the community. This belongs to us, and I thank God for the PIC TV network where we can reach the world and tell our story. Michelle, I want you to come in as we get ready to close out today before Mr. Twyman says his prayer and Pastor Bowie give his comments on tonight's presentation. We're going to definitely do a part two. The vibe down in Atlanta, and how do you feel when you see our network doing what we're doing tonight on our own news channel? Come on.
Well, number one, it's something that we needed. This couldn't have come at a more poignant time. And the reason why is it's for us, by us, but we have the total perspective. We give great content, awesome programming, and we can't be cut out. We know we're giving out the truth, and it's positive. You've got these wonderful, strong black men here, and no one's telling them to be quiet or cutting them out. They can't. That's the power of owning your own network, and that's the power of PIC TV. So as this moves forward, I am more than proud to be a part of something so great and to serve on this occasion with these great men. PIC TV is the new black. And when we talk about being in the black, it is the new being in the black. It is wealth, it's luxury, it's community, and it's uplift. Thank you so much, Dr. Evans, for letting me speak. I yield the floor.
Amen. Bishop Evans, PIC TV Network. I was there from the beginning. I thank God for this network. Let me say something real quick. I'm doing a sermon this week, and it's called My Past is on Trial. And then Pastor Dante King, Bishop Twyman, if I were to get in trouble with the police tomorrow and something happened, they would bring up my past. Over 30 years ago, I was locked up, facing life in prison for murder and armed robbery in Commonwealth State of Virginia. They would bring up my past. They would go back 30 years. I haven't been in trouble since. They would go back 30 years and bring that up. And what does my past or what happened 30 years ago have to do with what just happened today or what just happened with me in any situation that goes on? And we just got to be careful because our past is on trial even when somebody done us wrong. They'll bring up your past and say, well, he was locked up and he did this. They're not going to say that for the last 25, 30 years, he got saved and was serving the community, feeding the homeless, tractor trailer trucks, food trucks. Actually, the food truck, when we launched the food truck, Bishop Twyman was the first church, St. Stephen's, the first church. They said, come pick up a check. We want to honor what you're doing. They ain't going to talk about none of that. They're going to say, 30 years ago, he was locked up for murder, and I haven't killed nobody. He had a gun charge. I never had a gun. I was locked up for murder. I was in the wrong place, wrong time. I did my time. I served my time. But if something happened to you tomorrow, the first thing the movie going to do is try to find something to bring up like your past. All our past is on trial, even in any situation we're in today. So we just got to be careful and just, like I say, pray to God because of God, I know all things work together for my good in all situations that I've been a part of. So I have been a clean man for 30 years, serving in the community and doing what God said do. But unfortunately, if the end of us something happens, if you got a past, they're gonna bring that up. Your past is on trial, regardless. So what the past got to do with you, or what somebody killed you. So your past is responsible for it. So we just got to be careful.
Yeah, I want to say before Bishop Twyman comes and closes us out tonight, I want to thank everybody for watching our news channel, our PIC TV Network news channel around the world, literally in Germany, Panama, Ireland, Peru, Chile. Everybody has a Roku You need to tell your friends to turn on the PIC TV network. We have 56 million people. Google it. 56 million people around the world watching, and we'll be back on tomorrow. I want to also thank Dr. Dante King who keeps it real. Never apologize, man. That's what we need, because you got people who watching us from all walks of life, and they need to talk and they need to hear, and we got a real side. We bleed blood. We talk real. So you can come on PIC TV Network and you can hear real talk from real people. Thank Ivan Campbell from the political arena. He works again Capitol Hill, served on the Barack Obama board, and his expertise, Jerome Bowie, who was on tonight, Could Be Me Ministry, who helps people around the Metroplex getting food and help and support. I want to also thank Michelle Cox, all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, being on tonight. She gives us updates. She's our public relations person from the PIC TV network. Got big stars coming on for interviews on our 60 channels. Also, Brother Pastor Elliott from Baltimore, he had to leave. He's a principal. He was on with us tonight. He was talking about how we have to make some changes. And last but not least, Bishop Lanier Twyman, who feeds between 3,000 to 5,000 people, 5,000 to 8,000 people every Tuesday. He was there today, morning to afternoon, every Tuesday. People are getting fed. And not only church people, not only religious people, people from all walks of life. I talked to him today. I've been there with him, serving and helping people. And the police are there serving too. Come on, Bishop Twine, for your closing words and close us out in prayer.
Thank you, Dr. Evans. You're doing a fantastic job with PIC TV, man. We're really proud of you, and we're going to do everything we can to support you and encourage you in this endeavor. To all of these powerful men and women on this panel sharing today, God bless you. Certainly, of course, I know Dr. Bowie and Dr. King. Certainly, I appreciate Ivan, your perspective, and Michelle Cox. It's so nice to meet both of you. And it's our prayer that we'll get a chance to dialogue some more in the near future. Let's pray. Lord, we're grateful on so many different levels in the midst of chaos. You're still good, and we still acknowledge you as a good God in the midst of struggle and sorrow. You're still in charge. You're still in control. God, we need you. We need your wisdom. We need your insight. You are the God of justice. You are our rock. Your work is perfect. For all your ways are judgment. You're a God of truth and without iniquity. You're just and you're right all the time. But we recognize that we live in a wicked world. And God, we know that you're going to right every wrong. We know in due season, you told us not to be weary in well-doing, for we shall reap if we faint not. I pray, God, your blessings upon even this country. I thank you for a favorable, righteous judgment that even took place today. I thank you that those jurors saw fit to tell the truth and to be honest, and we know, God, that no one can be judge, jury, and executioner and get away with it. We know ultimately you're going to step in. You've stepped in before and you'll do it again. I pray your blessings, God, upon these wonderful men and women of God. I pray your blessings upon their family. I pray your blessings upon the PIC TV network, that this network would get out and provide the opportunities for freedom of speech and to share views that are edifying and encouraging. We just bless you, Lord, for walking with us through this season. We trust you and thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
God bless you.
Amen. God bless you.